All right. Good morning, good evening, good day, and welcome to another video. I guess another guide, essentially. This one, also a question that I got and have gotten a lot. Specifically being my own version of a hero tier list for the game. Now, there are quite a few different hero tier lists that are out there already. I believe every YouTube content creator for this game has done one at this point. Each one different than the other in terms of what their rankings are. I'm going to opt to do something different, and not just in my own rankings, but the way that I'm going to do the hero tier lists. I'm actually going to make 4 of them. So this is going to be a 4-part series, so consider this video part 1 of that series. And instead of doing a generic or legendary hero tier list, we're going to be doing a hero tier list based on roles. So this video, as you can see from the title, is going to be for a Garrison, so a Garrison hero tier list, followed by a rally, a field or general tier list, specifically mostly for field. And then the 4th video will be a free-to-play or small spender tier list. So heroes in that category or in that video for free-to-play and small spenders will be more weighed on the availability of the heroes and how easy it is to obtain them alongside their impact in all 3 roles. So rally, field, and garrison. So without further ado, let's take a look at the list here in front of you that we have. The categories are best, optimal, and sustainable. Question mark, question mark, question mark, and then finally NA. So for NA, it's just not going to be applicable. We're not going to be using those heroes in this Garrison guide. The question mark, question mark, question mark one itself, I feel like I should probably address first, just because this is a Garrison one, and so why the hell do we have Elena and Jonathan up here on the board? The simple and short answer is because of the new hero that is coming out, which is going to be Chasey. Oh, sorry about that. Which is going to be Chasey here. Chasey brings a very unique talent tree setup that we haven't had available before, alongside her obvious other parts of her kit that make her unique, being the basic attack damage and the countering, specifically to ranged rallies, that she is being built for. So she brings Rider, Garrison, and skills for her talent tree. Currently there is no other hero that brings that combination of 3 to the table. More specifically, there is no Garrison that gets the skills tree and the Garrison tree at the same time, except for Louis. Louis actually does ranged Garrison skills. So it is very unique in that sense. So again, Rider, skills, and Garrison are the talent tree. So taking a look here, what I did is I reset my talent points on this character. Catherine has Rider and skills, but doesn't have Garrison. So I filled out the Rider and the skills tree to what I would take, and that left 15 points. So taking the full skills tree pretty much, with the exception of not taking more skill damage. The highlights here are the rage regen themselves, but also pay attention here to the reduction squad skill damage taken by 6%. In the Rider skill tree, we take the increased damage to range squads by 8%, but also the reduction in skill damage taken by 15%. So 15% and 6%, so 21% reduction in skill damage taken. And then also the Garrison tree with 15 points remaining. she would have access to get skillful defense, which gives another 16% reduction in skill damage taken while garrisoned. So 2, 5, 9, 11, and then 4 points here into shelter guard would complete out the remaining 15 points that you would have on the new hero if you went rider skills and garrison for the talent tree. But again, 16% for the garrison tree for the reduction in skill damage taken. 16 plus 15 is 31, plus 6 is 37. 37 from there. From Chasey, we see a 7.5% and then a 17.5%, specifically from range. So 25% here, plus that 37. And then the reason why we have Elena and Jonathan in the question mark category is that when we take a look at Elena's kit, when receiving AoE damage, there's a 90% chance of reducing damage taken by 40%. Well, what causes AoE damage? It's going to be Louis' AoE skill damage on a rally, or Bard's AoE skill damage on a rally as well. So she's reducing the damage taken on that from the AoE. There's a 90% chance to reduce it by 40%. Triggered once every 6 seconds, which is typically going to be the time for a ranged rally to set off the rage skill again, between 6 to 8 seconds. So that just pairs alongside the reduction in skill damage that's already coming from the talent tree right off the bat. On Garrison with Elena, if the target is flanked, the bonus is the damage is bonused or increased. Increased damage to flank targets by 13.5% here as well. Rider squad attack by 20%. And then, here's another part that I think is also overlooked on what this new character means. So with the new character, you get this huge increase in basic attack damage through the rage skill, through a couple of these passives as well. A huge increase. Well, with Elena, you get an increase of basic attack damage by 30% as well. However, when your rage is above 50%, basic attack damage is increased to 53%. Now, typically, Elena will have this for 1 to 2 seconds, probably about 2 seconds more so, of increased attack damage from when she's above 50% rage to when the time that she uses her rage skill. However, on Garrison, specifically since the combo is meant to counter silences, since she's silenced for 3 seconds by Julia, her rage skill is still sitting at 100 but is unable to be used because she's silenced. So this could potentially be the 2 seconds going from 50% rage to 100% rage, get silenced, and then 3 seconds of being silenced at 100% rage as well. You could essentially have this bonus 23%, so up to 53% basic attack damage for up to 5 seconds if timed correctly with Julia silenced while getting rallied by a Julia. So I think that's one kind of cool mechanic that isn't really talked about, or I haven't seen talked about yet, that I noticed when looking at potential pairs with Chasey, if somebody went Chasey lead for Garrison. And then, yeah, if inflicted with silence, has a 20% chance to deal 2 basic attacks per turn for the duration of the effect. So that would also go right alongside the Elena buff as well. So, yeah, it's crazy how it kind of synergizes there. There's definitely some peel back the curtain synergy that's happening. For Jonathan, what's kind of unique about this is that he's kind of looked as a counter rally hero when talked about. However, if the target is a rally squad, the target HP is reduced by 25%. When you're on Garrison, the target that you're going to be hitting is going to be a rally target with the majority of the time, unless you're being swarmed. And counter damage is reduced by 20% for 2 seconds. A basic attack has a 20% chance of reducing skill damage received by 25% for 2 seconds. That goes alongside those talents that we were just talking about, where you get like the 37% from the talent tree setup that is available to Chasey before factoring in her other abilities that also further reduce skill damage taken. So a basic attack has a 20% chance of doing that. by 25% for 2 seconds. If in Alliance territory, it will also cause an additional damage to the enemy. Since you're on Garrison, Jonathan will always be on Alliance territory, so this will always proc. The nice thing about having skills that deal damage outside of your rage skill is that the rage skill is silenced, however your passive skills aren't. And Jonathan has 2 skills that cannot be silenced, so this will still be dealing damage. And then this effect can be triggered at most once every 6 seconds. Again, a rage skill cycle is usually 6 to 8 seconds for range, so this would this could help out quite a bit in reducing skill damage as well. Yeah. So you have 2 damage abilities here that deal damage to the enemy rallies without being able to be silenced. And 7,500, even though it's every 20 seconds, 7,500 is quite a bit of damage. HP reduction of 25% here is huge, especially if you're counter rallying or swarming the rally that's on your tower. Counter damage is also nice to reduce. So, yeah, that is why we have Jonathan and Elena in the question mark category. Yeah, they just look like there are opportunities if you go a Rider Armament Garrison set for some interesting synergies there, but only time will tell. Moving on up to sustainable, we have Tom. Tom has fallen down the ranks quite quickly and being replaced by better alternatives. However, he is still on the sustainable side of things, as he is fairly easy to get, fairly cheap to get. And he does bring quite a bit of damage reduction to the table. So factoring those things together, he sits in the sustainable table here. Moving left, we have Miyamoto. Miyamoto is also in the sustainable area. He is not typically one that you would find on the Garrison side of things. However, I included him on this simply because you can get him from roulette on infantry top commanders. So his easy availability to get, plus an AoE rage skill, plus the skills talent tree if you decide to lead with him. Just a few other factors and things like that. Obviously nothing that makes him shine in Garrison, but usable factors there. Puts him in the sustainable category as well. Eddie, he is here because for free-to-play and small spenders, if you were chasing after Eddie as a infantry hero, simply because he does so well in the field, he does so well on rallies, both as a rally leader or, again, in the field. He's a highly sought-after character that you would want to go after as a free-to-play or a small spender that wants to have a good infantry march or infantry squad to begin with. So with that in mind, having him as a 6-star hero and maxed and awakened would present opportunities where not necessarily ideal or optimal, but sustainable to have on an infantry garrison behind someone like Thunder, where you are taking as little damage as possible through damage reduction, but then dealing high damage through counter damage. Or maybe you pair alongside Rigoro for the high counter damage as well, or Riven for the increase to the shield that Eddie gets, along with Eddie's awakened skill. What's going up here? Along with Eddie's awakened skill, where when the shield is broken or disappears, reduces the HP of up to 3 nearby enemy squads by 20% for 2 seconds. He has a shield, and Riven has 2 shields, 1 awakened as well. So that is 3 shields to proc Eddie's awakened skill as well. So a little bit of synergy as well, so that keeps him in the sustainable category. Then we have Jacob. Jacob is also in the sustainable category here, simply because he does have high skill damage, does have AoE. It is limited to 3 targets, and the damage does fall off fairly quickly. He does offer other opportunities for high damage. However, a lot of it depends on getting below 50% or below 30% in total squad troop size. And if you're in higher G brackets, what you'll usually see is that when when that mark kind of gets hit of the 50%, 30%, or when trades are less favorable or whatever have you, rallies will cancel, get reset, that kind of a thing. You don't see as many rallies that last 2 to 3 hours straight. You will see them sometimes in the Titan ones or whatever. Yes, that does happen. However, you'll usually see, whether it's because of the rally getting swarmed or counter rallied, whatever it is, field presence, rallies get canceled, then they get reset. So hitting that 50% or that 30% benchmark for some of Jacob's skills to trigger are what keeps him in the sustainable category instead of up in the optimal or higher. Moving on up, we have Louis and Raigoro. We'll begin with Louis. Louis is great because he's easy. He's one of the easier heroes to access, one of the cheaper heroes to get, I would say, because of like the daily packs that you can get that have him in there as well. Yeah, just ways to basically get him regularly, get relics for him. That availability plus the fact that he has an AoE rage skill, has high rage regen, has a 30% increase to skill damage and stuff. There's a lot of capabilities there for you to pair him as a free-to-play player, as a small spender, or maybe a mid-spender that's looking to awaken Riven or awaken Victor, those types of things. So that's why he's here in the optimal category. He does really well. However, there are better alternatives once you kind of look past him for others for skill damage specifically. So now we have Raigoro. Raigoro is in the optimal category mostly because of his pair with Riven. Now, Raigoro is good in scenarios of taking multi-rallies, so like an Archipelago raid, or I'm assuming a Genesis event where they have the ability to multi-rally you from one alliance. So basically opportunities where more than one rally is going to be hitting the tower. You're going to be generating more rage. So that, alongside his increase in damage when the shield is up, that with his overall shield health, those factors paired with Riven puts him in the optimal category. He's only optimal if you have Riven, and Riven ideally awaken. Would this be a scenario where you have Raigoro in the optimal? Otherwise, he would be in the sustainable. So moving beyond Raigoro, in the best category, Thunder is a question mark for me to put here. With the rallies coming out with Bard, the Julia meta, and those types of things, he's really taking a beating in how efficient he actually is. So I wouldn't say that he's like a strong S, where before he was like an S plus for Garrisons. I would say he's like an S or an S minus now, flexing into the optimal area, again, because he gets countered so well. But I would say that, like, because he offers such high flat damage reduction, not in the form of just high defense or HP, which he does offer. He does offer high stats, I mean. But because he offers like flat damage reduction of some form, I believe it's the basic attack damage. The stronger that your opponent is, the more important that flat damage reduction is going to be. So if I'm taking a Garrison against a 6 or 6.5 mil whale rally, it's going to be really important that if he's dealing 100,000 per skill damage trigger, if I can, mitigate a flat percentage of that, or if he's dealing 6,000 per basic attack to mitigate, a flat 30% of that, whatever it may be, that flat damage reduction is more important the higher the number is that your enemy is dealing in damage. So the fact that Thunder has so many ways to reduce the overall damage output that your enemy has, keeps him up in the very in a high category for Garrison, because it is your only way to counter strong players is to sustain as long as possible. You're never going to beat them, you're never going to outtrade them, but you may be able to out-sustain them or create opportunities for your allies or for flank opportunities to happen, whatever, drain their reinforcing players or whatever have you, by out-sustaining them. To me, as a Garrison player, that's kind of the only factor that comes into mind when it comes to fighting whales and stuff like we do regularly, is that you have to be able to eat the hits that they take, and how long you take the beatings really determines how much opportunity you have to create windows of opportunity to win, basically, or to counter. So yeah, that's why I have Thunder up in the higher category, is that you can pair him with Victor, and Victor does a lot of damage. You can pair him with Riven, and she does a lot of damage, but also brings a lot of sustainability. Yeah, so there's definitely good opportunities and options there. So moving beyond Thunder to Victor. Victor has the high skill damage, extremely high skill damage, has the opportunity of, if you have a leader armament Garrison set, which I've seen quite a few people have. Save Me comes to mind as one of the main people. I believe Coco, who is in DHX, I believe he has one as well. But if you have a leader armament Garrison set that's honed correctly, you can use multi-troop Garrisons, and it works extremely well. Yeah, he works extremely well as a lead hero for the right players in the right hands, and then also just as a secondary behind Thunder, as a secondary behind Riven, as a secondary behind Rygoro. He works extremely well and has high skill damage output and sustainability with the high HP that he brings with his stats. And finally, we have Riven. Riven is an S tier Garrison because of her high skill damage that she outputs, the sustainability that she has through a few different shields, but then high defense and stats as well that she gives as a buff. I believe, and let me just double check from my end here. Yeah, it's defense, plus she gives 30% HP, so she gives high sustain and stats, high sustainability with her 2 shields that she provides as well. And then she creates unique opportunities for secondary heroes that synergize well, like Rygoro, by increasing his shield health by 30%, and then that synergizes with the bonus damage she receives in return from having his shield up from Rygoro's passives. So they work well together. She works well with Thunder for sustainability again. She also works really well with Victor for dealing damage. So yeah, Riven and Victor for skill damage. Riven Thunder sustain. Riven Rygoro, yeah, there's just so many different combinations that you can use. So overall, Riven sits way up there on the tier list, and this is what it looks like for me. So this is the Garrison tier list. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. Hopefully this helps you. I know that a lot of the reasons why the heroes are highlighted is kind of redundant, like why certain heroes are good or what their weak points are, but this to me is what makes them shine specifically for Garrisons, and why in a Garrison type role they do shine. So hopefully you guys got something out of that. Look forward to the next videos for the hero tier lists, parts 2, 3, and 4. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much.